So I was laid off exactly a week ago, which I've covered in more detail in my previous video. For most people, this is a devastating shock to their lives, where they are overwhelmed by feelings of fear, panic, and uncertainty. There's immediate chaos as everything unravels. First, the financial stress consumes you as bills pile up, and especially if you don't have any buffer. Then, despite their supportive words, loved ones still look to you for stability you no longer feel. And all around, that piercing sense of failure digs deeper, and right when you're at your most vulnerable. But here's the thing, I did get laid off, and yet I strangely feel more peace and excitement about what the future holds. You see, most people get destroyed by moments like these, not because of the events themselves, but because they inadequately process and respond to them. So in this video, I want to share with you 3 principles that keep me going, especially during tough times, as I go through this myself. I just want to say that before recording this video, I decided to do some research to see what other mainstream advice is out there with regards to responding to adversity. And wow, apparently I just need to be more grateful and surround myself with positivity. But this just slaps a bandage onto a bullet wound. It treats your acute symptoms, but not the underlying chronic condition. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lakan. Live your best life today and an even better one tomorrow. The first and most important principle is that I live a proactive life with strong emotional control. I'm not a slave to my emotions or the environment or circumstances I am in. This is critical for all of us to thrive in such a rapidly changing world. And being proactive and having emotional control does not mean that you're emotionless. It simply means that you control how you respond instead of letting life control that for you. The good news is that this is a skill anyone can learn, one that I did. When I was younger, I was very emotional and my moods would swing depending on the situation, environment, and people that surrounded me. So yes, even if you grew up in a storm of reactivity, surrounded by people who let their emotions dictate their behavior, that doesn't mean that you're also stuck or forced to live that way. You can change how you think, feel, and respond. When something traumatic happens, your body launches a full-scale stress response. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in and floods you with adrenaline and cortisol, chemicals designed to help you survive. Your heart races, your breathing quickens, and your thoughts scatter as your brain scrambles to make sense of the threat. That's why living proactively is so powerful and the first step to better emotional control. It's a skill I've built over the years and continue to do so by developing deeper self-awareness. What might look like emotional suppression to others is simply my ability to efficiently process my emotions without letting them hijack my behavior and making sure they serve my decisions instead of sabotaging them. The first thing to do when faced with a traumatic event, despite your fight, flight, or freeze response kicking in, is to slow down the chemical reactions in your body, which is easily done by controlled breathing. When I was in a devastating accident or held at gunpoint, this is what I did. And in doing so, you shift from survival mode reactions driven by the amygdala to rational and intentional responses led by your prefrontal cortex. I'll cover this more in another video. The second principle is being optimistic, not naively positive. This distinction is critical because positivity says everything's good. Optimism says even when it's not, I'll find a way. When most people experience setback, they see optimism as denial, as if being hopeful is somehow ignoring the problem. But optimism at its core is the belief that despite how bad the situation is, we'll always find a way. And here's my favorite insight. Studies have shown that pessimists are more accurate in their predictions. Yet optimists are the ones who actually succeed and make progress. Because pessimists see things as they are, and optimists act on what they could become. It actually reminds me of the quote from the Bee movie, which let me get now. So it goes like this: according to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. We impose so many limitations on ourselves, and I see it so often with the objective reality movement. Science is brilliant at explaining why things are, but does a poor job at imagining what is possible. That is why, like Elon Musk, I'd rather be optimistically wrong than pessimistically right. If I'm optimistically wrong, at least I tried and learned things that may need to be improved and that I can do so going forward. But if I'm pessimistically right, what did I achieve? Maybe I get some temporary satisfaction of saying, I told you so. That doesn't make life any better and just keeps you stuck where you are. There's also no such thing as being realistic. We all live on a spectrum from pessimistic to optimistic. And where we are on the spectrum determines the lens through which we see reality and live. For example, I optimistically see reality. You may pessimistically see reality. Neither of us can realistically see reality. Here's the amazing thing: your position on the spectrum is not fixed. Optimism doesn't live in isolation. It grows with exposure to ideas, people, experiences, and environments that expand your worldview. That is why I say exposure is more important than experience, and I'll cover this in another video. Experience shows you what has been done. Exposure shows you what is possible. And the more you expose yourself to possibility and different perspectives, the more your mind is trained to see opportunities where most people see problems. This is how I've been able to stay calm. Not because I don't see the problem, but because I see the possibilities beyond it. The third and last principle is respecting my privileges. So many people confuse and treat their privileges as rights. We hear phrases like, I have the right to a fair wage, or I have the right to freedom of choice. But when life doesn't meet these expectations or takes them away, we feel betrayed, as if somehow the universe has broken a promise it never made in the first place, or has stolen from us. And I'm saying this based on the fundamental principles of life, not what is legal, because yes, in that case you do have rights and entitlements. Even our human rights declared by the United Nations is actually a common standard of achievement for us to strive towards, not entitlements we can take for granted. Unfortunately, the mindset I just explained breeds entitlement. But the truth is, nothing is guaranteed, not even the rights we claim to be entitled to. And seeing this clearly isn't negative, it's freeing. Because once you stop expecting the world to hand you things you think you deserve, you start focusing on what you can offer. And so when I started my career, I respected the privilege of earning an income, as well as the environment I was in that enabled me to learn and grow. I remember my peers complaining about how little we were earning based on our qualifications. And yes, the pay wasn't great, but I remember thinking, how much of arrogance, ego, or sense of entitlement must you have to see an opportunity where you can earn, learn, and grow as beneath you? I respected the money entering my bank account every month by properly managing my finances. And over the years, I followed my personal finance system I developed, which has served me in so many ways. Especially now when my income has taken a significant knock. Having an emergency fund provides me with a safety net and peace. I started off by aggressively saving 6 months of expenses and then dialed it down to, until I got to 12 months. This is also in addition to what I contributed towards investments. Now that I've been laid off, that respect has become my peace. I don't feel the same panic that many others do after losing a job because I built a foundation when things were stable. I respected my privileges long before I was forced to. So yes, I got laid off, but this moment isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Because when something is taken away or lost, it creates space for something even better. Away with certainty, in with clarity. It reminds you that security never came from a company, a paycheck, or a title. It came from you, your ability to add or create value. And that's what the last few weeks have reinforced for me. So wherever you are, whatever you're facing, try to be proactive, stay optimistic, and respect your privileges. Because at the end of what was is the beginning of what can be.